Letters are a very powerful thing. And what's interesting about letters is that when they come, you don't know what they're going to say. Dear Hill Harper, my name is Brian, and I'm 16 years old. And I'm in jail. I can't use a computer, so I can't email you. I wrote these to someplace in New York, and I hope and I pray they fax the letter to you or give it to you some way, because I really want to talk to you about a lot of stuff, Hill. Just finished reading your book, Letters to a Young Brother. It was the best book I ever read in my life, and I mean that. So if Penguin didn't give you these letters, I would like to have your home address so we can correspond back and forth to each other. Like you said in your book, many young people don't have a role model. I didn't have one. That's why I'm in jail. But I have one now, and his name is Hill Harper. I really hope Penguin didn't give you these letters first class, and if you do get it, can you please write me back? I read in your book that you play in CSI New York. I like that show, and I also like CSI Miami, but I do like your show a little better. And I also read you went to school with Barack Obama. If you can tell him I said hello. If I was at home, I'd vote him president. If I was older, I'm only 16 years old. And I'll tell you why I'm in jail and how much time I have if you write me back, or even if you get my letter, which I hope you do. Well, that's everything for right now. Hope you write back, your friend and brother, Brian. So it was one of those days I was running out of my office, and my assistant handed me a little packet. And usually when I'm jumping on a plane, she'll give me things. It's, sign a picture or sign a book or sign this or do this. And this letter happened to be slipped in there, and I was flying across the country, and I pulled this letter out. I actually felt sorry for the woman sitting next to me, because when I read this letter, tears started coming down my face. And what was interesting about that is I think she thought I was going to do something bad on the plane. She thought, it was like, this guy's getting a little emotional. What's he about to do, rush the cockpit? By the time I landed, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do something for Brian. I'm going to be interventionist. I really had not much a connection to the issues of incarceration in our country. And this was the first letter I'd gotten from prison. But what started to happen is that the next week I got 2 more. And then the next week I got 5 more. And then a month later I got 30. Then the next month, I got a big box of book reports. Unbeknownst to me, there were judges, particularly juvenile court judges across this country, that were assigning my book, Letters to a Young Brother, Manifest Your Destiny, to young brothers who were coming through. Now, I felt a couple different ways about this, because I was like, you're assigning my book as a penalty? But they were having them write book reports. And I guess the judges were getting these reports, and they were like, I don't know what to do with them. They would just send them to Hill Harper, I guess. So if you go to my office, I have letters and stacks of book reports. I have letters from brothers from Florida, Chicago, California, Hawaii, all over. I figured they must have thought that since my book was called Letters to a Young Brother, that, I'd be receptive to getting letters. What I started to realize, though, is that I couldn't stay in touch with everybody. I couldn't write everybody back. So what could I do? Because I wanted to do something. And so I started a foundation based off the subtitle of my book called the Manifest Your Destiny Foundation. And what's interesting about that is I figured, if I'm going to impact the issue, then maybe I could be an interventionist on the front side before young brothers and sisters are getting into trouble. Maybe I could do something on the front end to stop them from ending up having to read my book assigned by a judge. So that's what I did. And it was going pretty well. You know, working with people, doing some things, and I started to notice something, though. I started to notice that every young man that I work with, every situation, there was an energy level missing, a light missing. Like those young brothers right here, these two. You see how he's kind of looking down? I started to notice a trend. Started noticing a trend that a lot of the cats I work with, they kind of sit back like this and keep their head down. And they never really raise their voice very loud. They be looking like that, and then everything was just real measured. It's real down. I started to think, well, you know that Jay-Z lyric where he talks about, he said, I ain't past the bar, but I know a little bit, so I'm not going to let you illegally search my shit. You know? Well, I started thinking about energy. And like that lyric, I'm no Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I don't have a PhD in physics, but physics is an interesting thing. Because if we're actually going to impact an issue, then it's going to take some measure of energy. And if I'm interacting with so many young brothers and sisters that have so little energy, then I realize there's no way we can impact that issue. If we talk about the issue of mass incarceration, we're living in a country where we're 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's inmates, where we have more black men in prison today than were slaves in 1860, where we're the only country in the world that will sentence a juvenile to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There's a mass incarceration abomination happening, yet if we don't have the energy to actually change it, it'll never change. Now, that's all top-down stuff, which is great. And there's a lot of people working on changing policy, changing laws, changing things from the top down, but I've always been more interested from bottom up. How do we change the individual? How do I change that brother right there? And this is where physics comes in. Now, this is an interesting thing. We associate Einstein with E equals MC squared, a theory of relativity. Things are all relative, you see. So let's break down energy real quick. Now, the interesting thing about energy is that there are a few laws in physics that tell us. The first law is that to move a mass that's in stasis, to change the composition of something, energy or force is required to do that. Is that correct? Is there a PhD in physics here? I just want. Oh, in the back? Good. You corroborate what I'm saying? Fantastic. You just ruined my talk. But, so if we're actually going to change something that we want to change, and what's interesting about that concept, that if it's a big issue, like mass incarceration, if it's a big problem, then what's required? A great deal of force or energy to actually change it. Yet most of us walk around this world with too little energy. We collaborate in having too little. So, what does that mean? Let's talk about this. Potential energy. Now, that's the energy that's actually there but's being unused, because there's another law of physics that tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed. That means the energy to change something already exists in each and every one of us. Everybody in this room right here as a collective could actually change all the things we're going to talk about today, because the potential to change them already exists. Yet we have to change that potential energy into something more active. Yet somehow we've allowed something or somebody to steal our light. And light is a very powerful type of energy because it shines light into darkness. It exposes darkness. It exposes truths. Yet if we allow forces, institutions, systems, and individuals to spread what I call fear, which is false evidence appearing real, misinformation, we can't shine light onto it. And then there are very many tools of theft of light. I would suggest to you that poverty is one of the number one tools of theft of light. I would suggest to you that drugs, violence, undereducation, miseducation is another tool of theft. I would suggest to you that military and siege-style policing and profiling is another tool of theft. I would suggest to you that self-hatred and the fact that blacks and Latinos fight is crazy to me. Another tool of theft. Yet most of us don't want to actually be reductive in breaking that down and figure out, okay, well, how do I fit into what light has been stolen from me and where my potential energy lies and how I can turn it into this first powerful type of energy that I want you guys to think about. Who here went to church when they were young, particularly a black church? Can someone tell me the number one song that a young child learns? What's the first song you're going to learn in church? What is it? This Little Light. You're absolutely right. And could you lead us with just the first verse of This Little Light is Mine? Come on, everybody together. I'm gonna let it shine. That's right. Come on, y'all. This is the fastest tempo I've ever heard of this song. I'm gonna let it shine. Okay, stop. Did y'all know that This Little Light of Mine is actually a physics song? It really is. It's a song based in physics. It's all about this. It's all about radiant energy. And I would suggest to you that what we have to first think about is taking whatever potential energy that already exists in us individually and then collectively and turn it into radiant energy first. We have to actually start to walk around with a little bit more light, or else we're never going to change anything. The conversion of some of our potential energy into radiant energy is the critical first step, because the beautiful thing about radiant energy is that it affects other people. It lifts them up as well. Yet I would suggest to you that the vast majority of people you know are just like the young brothers and sisters I work with my foundation. They wake up kind of like this. They get up in the morning and they're like, clock goes off. Good morning. How you doing? I'm feeling all right. What's going on today? You know I'm doing that thing, dog. What are you going to do today, man? I don't know what I'm going to do. We've been zombified. Walking Dead is the number one show on TV right now. The reason why we love that show is because we see ourselves in it. We have all colluded in our own zombification. Walking around thinking that we actually can't impact change, so we collude to live in a level of energy that's so low that even when we see it's someone with energy that's an aberration, that's living outside a different level of energy, we tease them, we bully them to pull them back to living like us. Folks walk around talking about, oh, I hate my job. Damn, I hate the day. I hate my CO. I hate my wife. I hate my life. Yet, we won't change it. We don't think we have the energy to change it. So if we can get that radiant energy first, it's got to come from there first. We can then start to think about shifting it to the next, what I believe to be the most powerful form of energy. That's kinetic energy. The energy of action, the energy of activism, the energy of actually saying, I am going to affect this situation. Number one, my life first. Number two, the life of my family. Number three, the community. Number four, my block, my neighborhood. Number five, my city, my state. I'm going to be energy in motion. I'm going to be active. I'm going to have action. I'm going to take action. I'm not going to let others that are colluding with too little energy to pull me back. I'm going to talk louder. I'm going to move faster. I'm not going to accept no for an answer on any occasion. I'm going to let you slam 100 doors in my face. I'm going to knock again, or I'm going to kick it in. That is kinetic energy. That's the energy of action. Now, the question then becomes, how do we do that? Because it's easy for me to say, well, you know what you need to do? You need to change that potential energy to this and this and that and that. But where does that really come from? What's the source of that? Now, I'm a word monger, y'all. I love words, right? Because I think the words that we actually use as we go through our journey actually impact our walk, as well as those around us. And one of my favorite words is the word courage. If you know anything about the etymology or the root of the word courage, it's cœur. If you speak French, you know that means heart. Most people think that courage is the antithesis of fear, but that's actually not true. What courage really is just living from your heart. And you see, you can't switch any potential energy into radiant or kinetic energy if you don't get into your heart first. Because courage ultimately will determine that. What makes your heart beat faster? What issue do you want to impact? Where do you want to point your energy? You see, I can't answer that for you. Brother Bain can't answer it. Nobody else. Because the thing is, if you choose to work on something in your life of your family, your community, an issue that someone told you that you should care about, or you think you should care about, or you think it may help you or make you look good if you care about it, then you know what? When the obstacles come, you won't continue. But if it's in your core, if it's in your heart, you will continue. You can't be defeated if you continue to access that energy. So, for me, I started thinking about what I really cared about, and I was at a conference, and this brother here, Brian Stevenson, he issued a challenge. Now, Brother Bain was just up here, and on one of his slides, he just talked about the fact of reducing America's prison population by 90% by 2020. Now, that's extremely ambitious, and it's more ambitious than the challenge that Brian issued to me, which was over the next 5 years, could we reduce this country's prison population in half? And then the way I heard that, now he didn't say it this way, the way I heard that was half by 2020. So I was thinking half by 2020, could we do that? We got 2.3 million inmates across this country. Reduce it by half. You know, I'm not that good at math, but that comes down to about 1.1, 1.2 million. Now, how do we do that? What level of energy or force would be required to take this mass of 2.3 million that is stuck in prison and force it and move it to cut it in half? That's where my core is right now. And I vow to leverage every bit of energy that I have in that effort. I vow to leverage every bit of celebrity, every bit of resource, every bit of platform that I have to dedicate it towards half by 2020. And I will ask you this. Where are you going to take your energy? What makes your heart beat faster? Where are you going to vow to turn your potential into radiant and kinetic? Where are you going to shine the light and where are you going to take action? Make a choice. And every time you wake up a little tired, and every time you hear somebody around you waking up a little tired and not saying, today is the day I'm actually going to change the world. Today is the day I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to move the meter. And if you stack a bunch of days like that together, the next thing you know, you've already moved it. And it becomes habitual. And every day you wake up with a little bit more energy. And you infect the people around you with a little bit more energy. And it grows. And it grows. I don't care what you choose. I don't care what you choose to do. If it's just making your own life better. Commit and go. God bless you.